charismatic.
Hello, residents. Dr. Rorish will be here shortly. For now, you got me. I'm Jesse Salander. For the next 3 years, I'm your mama. I'm the senior ER nurse, and I can promise you there's nothing that goes on in this house your mama don't know about. Try hiding something, your mama will find out. You think you're smarter than your mama because you got an MD? Well,
I would say that it's okay. Yeah, definitely you meet one senior doctor who is proud, but then obviously I don't think they're going to be expressive about it. They're not going to say it, but then they're going to act really well. Like you see the arrogant ones, you're juniors, and then they don't expect you to be all up around them. So definitely I think this is true, but it's a little bit dramatic.
Yeah, this is based on the little clinicals we've had during our vacations. Yeah, back home, we've experienced such things, and obviously there will be some people who will be rude towards you, some will be proud, and some are nice. Yeah,
even with the proud ones, after some time you get to know that they actually vibe together with them. So it's that is true.
If he's mama, who's daddy?
somebody's at the door.
Let's move. That's daddy.
Obviously there's an identity.
We've been moving on the sidewalk. Definitely good with doorbell. Homeboy drop off. It sounds racist. They gave them name, not us. Oh my god.
You can see a patient bleeding in a car. There's been an accident, obviously, and I would suggest, I think it's an arterial bleeding. Yeah, and the first thing you have to do is a temporal stop bleeding. That is applying your finger to wherever the bleeding is occurring to stop the bleeding.
I'll agree with him actually to say it's an arterial bleeding, because you can see it's coming out like a jet, like let's say like a broken pipe with water gushing out, and then it moves with the heartbeat, so it's pulsating, and then it's right actually to apply pressure directly. That's the first thing you can do, and it's better to do that than to lose a lot of blood eventually.
So let's see what they do.
Press it.
Okay, she's done it.
She has it done.
All right, you get over there on the other side and push with both legs. 1, 2, 3, go. One more time, let's go. All right, you right up top. I can do it. Get up there. Okay, all right, careful. Put your finger down where my finger is, right? Feel that little thing wiggling around like a worm trying to get away? Okay, that's a carotid artery. Your finger is now the only thing she can get out alive.
Hey dude, how to initiate a CPR? Because, well, CPR is like cardiopulmonary resuscitation, and it's what you're doing is you're trying to save the patient's life by taking over the function of the heart, pumping. You have your fingers interlocked and you're applying pressure on the mid sternum, so that's basically the middle of the chest, and you're using the weight of your upper body with your elbows not flexed. So you want to use the full weight of your upper body as much as possible to apply pressure. 30 compressions at a rate.
There's this counting you can do in your head, like 1 and 2 and 3 and 4, and so you can be doing that count in your head whilst you press. So like 1 and 2 and 3. So there should be an end in between the numbers to help you compress, and the compression should be like 6 centimeters deep. There's nothing to measure, but that is the assumption.
You can know you are compressing rightly as in with the right depth if you have there's this synchronic pulse wave you can feel. So you can ask one assistant to check for not a pulse but a synchronic pulse wave as you apply the compressions, and then you have your 2 rescue breaths you do intermittently. Your partner or assistant, it's supposed to be a team working together. In case where you are doing it alone, then you do it yourself, but then if you have someone, the person performs the 2 rescue breaths. So we hope they do it. Let's see.
Ella, call a TPA. Jesse, call the blood bank. Tell them I need 6 to 8 units and notify the OR.
Copy that.
One full blood of this one. RSI autometer, 20 milligram height.
So see, it looks a little bit violent, but actually that's how it's supposed to be done. You can have ribs being broken from that, and don't be scared. It's actually,
you have to keep doing it.
It actually sometimes means you're doing it well, and you have to keep doing it. I know a story of some doctors who failed to perform CPR, so they don't want to get blamed, so they just get something and break the patient's ribs, so that it's like a proof that they did CPR and then they actually did it well. So
watch out, it's a trick they do, but that's not.
it's not a good trick actually.
That's all.
Doctors, 75-year-old male started speaking gibberish at dinner. Vein number 4.
He's gonna need TPA.
Okay,
Dr.
so
Lee.
started speaking gibberish, then automatically we know there's something going wrong in the brain. And she mentioned TPA. TPA is actually a tissue plasminogen activator, and what it does, it breaks clots. So if she's saying TPA, then she's suspecting probably stroke.
Be excited enough for body and flash around just about everywhere. She is highly agitated. No way.
Do you want it straight or do you want doctor talk? I want it straight. What's your name? Ariel. Ariel. I'm Dr.
See, we
Ward.
see the difference clearly here. Like, I don't think it's cool to, it's not really ethical to just, you should know how to interact with really emotional patients, and especially kids, okay, because they can go crazy.
He was confused that I didn't understand him.
Yes. Called expressive aphasia. It's word salad. Sounds right to him. The words come out all tossed around.
Okay, what he said was aphasia. Aphasia is impairment of language. What do we mean? For language, there's what I'm doing right now, expressing myself, and there's what you would be doing right now, that's receiving what I'm saying and understanding what I'm saying. So that makes it two types of aphasia. There's Broca's aphasia, that's got to do with expressive aphasia, and the receptive Wernicke's. Broca and Wernicke are just the names of probably the scientists and the names of the centers in the brain responsible for these parts of language. So this patient here has expressive. So they would just be mixing words, and it's called word salad. It would just be like a salad. They'd be mixing different words, and it wouldn't make any meaning.
Wait, where's X-ray? Let's just keep it between us, okay?
So yeah, that was an awkward thing that went on over there. As an intern, I believe you would have to know all the departments, so you will be the right person to direct the patient and not your patient directing you. That becomes very awkward. You don't know your department.
But this can happen. It
can.
The rail was sketchy. I think it's broken. I can feel bones crunching around in there.
You high right now?
Why, you want some?
Can't.
Okay, so now you can, that's like, I would say it's an obsolete sign. Like, you can be sure it's a fracture because he could hear bone crunching. That's like a layman's explanation of what's happening, but then medically we say it's a crepitation. You can hear that's the bones rubbing against each other. Some additional absolute signs are like pathological movements of the, so let's say there's a fracture here and then you have your hand going all the way here. On a normal day it wouldn't. So that's a pathological movement. And then when the limb is shortened, definitely that's also one. You can be quite sure that it's a, there are relative signs too anyway, which could be some relative sign.
Yeah, like inflammatory signs. Maybe there's swelling at the place, there's pain, and then it's warm to touch. Yeah.
There is no good way to say this. I'm sorry. What? We couldn't save him. I don't understand.
Your father died, Ariel.
Well, technically.
That was direct. Actually, I don't think there would ever be a way, an easy way of announcing death to a patient's relative or friends. It wouldn't be easy, because it's like, it's never going to be easy. We know the value of life, and we know how much we try our very best to save them. But sometimes there are some, should I say, courses or conferences that people actually go to learn how to ethically and properly break the news to relatives, because it's essential. You could have another patient if you don't do well.
Yeah.
Fortunately, that's not your decision
To make it's your father's, and he made it over. You don't care about my father, and you don't care about me. You just want to cut him off. Eric, that is not true. Shut up! Shut up! Sorry.
why a doctor is supposed to be an all-round person, because to some extent you're not allowed to cry here. Okay, you're supposed to be the pillar for the relative. That if it's a young person or if the person is emotionally broken down, you're supposed to be the strong person in the room, you know.
So if you would like to be a doctor, you have to prepare for such cases as well.
Not necessarily being heartless, but yeah.
This kid has a head injury. I need a
So now what I can see is this patient presented with a fracture of his forearm, right? But then, you know, you can never trust a patient too much. You never know what else is going on. So it's always good to fully examine the patient, even if they come with a leg problem. Do a full examination, get to know what's up, because it might not be, they might not have any complaint there, but that could actually be the real problem. So especially in an emergency department, it's like full examination is always needed.
It's not the tube. This one's just stuck. It's breathing down. I'm a doctor, and you are too.
So this is typical, though they are showing us what really happens in the minds of doctors. You know, there's lots of pressure of every form, physical, mental, emotional pressure from the patients, relatives, from your team doctors, from the patients. There's a lot going on, and your own personal problems. So as a doctor, in fact, you push your own personal problems aside, and then you focus, you really focus and get things done. Ultimately, they might insult you and put a lot of pressure and even think you are doing something wrong, but at the end, when the patient's life is saved, they come back and they're the complete opposite. They are so happy.
It's necessary to, for instance, to put the relatives outside the theater to help you focus. If not, you might be too pressured to be missing what you're supposed to do as a doctor.
It's true. You're a human being. So in some countries, it's completely not allowed. They stay out of sight, and obviously here it's allowed, and the doctors have to deal with it. So this was the first episode of Medical Series Code Black, and I would say I liked it actually, because taking the medical parts of this series, it's I would say it's like a typical presentation of how the ER is. You have cases coming in more than you can handle. You have a little conflict between doctors, but then ultimately we all agree on what is going to save the patient, because that's our main goal. And then so I'd say for the medical aspects, medical procedures, they were accurate because they addressed each situation with the right tactic, though some were delayed and some were wrong. For the social part, it was good. It was good according to our rating. It was good because though we had a few errors where the doctors didn't approach the patients properly, the selection and choice of words were quite harsh. How to deliver news, how to calm down. But then we also saw other doctors do it properly and then do it right, and that was good. So I would say on the social part, and then when it comes to doctor-doctor relationship, doctor-patient relationship, and how they go about their ward rounds, I would say it's like a typical presentation. This series was good actually. It's really good. It keeps you glued to the screen and it shows you interesting cases, interesting typical cases, and then how the patients and doctors with the patient's relative start the story from how they present and then how they go through treatment with the family, and then we'll get to see the family's reaction of happiness and then how glad they are. And we also get the opposite where they present and then they get the bad news and then we see their reaction. And there's a typical picture of how the ER is supposed to be, how the emergency medicine department.
Some measures were accurate in terms of the CPR, in terms of some administration of some drugs.
This is Code Black first episode. Now we want to know from you guys what medical series you'd like us to tackle next. Should we go on to episode 2 or we should tackle a different medical series? We have Grey's Anatomy, Chicago Med, a whole lot. residents.
If you have any questions, you can post them in the comments.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We'll catch you guys on the next one.